What's up, guys? Welcome back to Let's Play Time Tenshi 2 right here on the arcade. And on the last episode, Kenji and Kyo kind of went to the mall, and we kind of know Kenji. She likes to play with her assets. I have an audience here, so I don't know why. But this was the last line of the last episode, so I guess we could... It's been since June since I've actually played this game or even looked at it. So, but even though you guys wouldn't be able to tell through the progression of the channel, so... About time you woke up, buddy. I was starting to think that you would spend the rest of the day napping. Mizuki really doesn't look like a ninja right now, does she? Hey, I needed some downtime to recover from that last trip. I'm trying to remember the voices, and I'm not doing a very good job. Don't act like you aren't still feeling what it did to us. I'm feeling the side effects, yes. I'm just not letting them dictate the way I act or hinder my ability to do what has to be done. Pausing to roll her eyes, Bunny focused on the third person seated in the small bedroom that was now serving as an impromptu prison. The Egyptian, who they had gone so far back in time to retrieve, and who was now sitting in silence examining the two of them with calm yet wary eyes. Our little princess Neferuri doesn't seem like the talkative type. Are you sure pulling her out of time was a good idea? I'm certain. She is the one we needed. I ran a series of tests on her earlier while you were still sleeping off the after effects of our trip, and they all came back positive. She's a perfect match for the criteria established by the professor's theories. A cold smile appeared on Mizuki's lips as she studied the Egyptian from the past. And even better, thanks to Tensei Shiro's helpers, we know for sure that what our time window detected earlier was a substantial shift in the time stream. Something in the past has been altered, meaning that it's possible to change our world, stopping the disasters, the famine, the diseases, everything before it can even happen. We no longer have to worry about testing to see if we can create a time paradox. All that we have to do is make preparations so we can go ahead and do it. About that, something's been bugging me. Which is? Those two. Somehow they knew what we were dealing with here in our time. But how's that possible? Obviously, they must have learned of it before time changed. It stands to reason that if something in their time changed, it would alter our present. Which would mean that we might not remember how they learned about our time. So why does that bother you? Because they said something about how it could go wrong. They seemed worried, not just about themselves, but us as well. And they mentioned someone called Michelle, someone they thought we'd know about. So if something's changed and it's affected our memories... Bunny, you and I both know that there is a risk in doing what we're doing. But we also know that the safe path isn't always the correct one. We have to do this, or... You don't have to lecture me about that. I just want to make sure that nothing goes wrong when we finally make our move. That's all. It's not just our lives at stake here. Everything is depending on us. Counting on us to do this right. I think that would make more sense if it said everyone is depending on us. Instead it says everything. That doesn't make any sense. Turning her focus towards Neferuri, I hope I'm saying that correctly, Mizuki smiled and nodded thoughtfully. And that's why Princess Neferuri is here. That is a mouthful to say. Because she's going to help us make sure that nothing does go wrong. As my eyes opened, I found myself looking up the ceiling of my room away from home and sighing. Ever since I had gone to bed after getting back from dinner and shopping with Kyo, sleep had been elusive at best. I would fall asleep and wake up a half an hour later or so and struggle to get back to sleep. And all the while, the same thoughts I had recently been battling continued to dance maddeningly about in my mind. I've never heard of that word like that, or even used in that proper context, or even in a statement like that, giving me no peace at all. Sigh, maybe some more milk and a few cookies will help. What is he, 5 years old? I want some cookies and some milk. That'll help me go to sleep. With this in mind, I rose up from my bed, stretched, and then exited my room, hoping I could find the most reliable sleep aid I had ever known in the cafeteria. Well, it says MMFMMH, so I don't know what sounds to make for that. Huh? Before I reached the cafeteria, I heard an odd, muffled sound coming from somewhere nearby. Frowning somewhat, I paused to orient myself, trying to pin down exactly where the sound was coming from, and started off in its direction. Before long, I found myself at the door to the time window room. And although I still wasn't able to identify the nature of the sound, I could tell enough to know that it was coming from somewhere in the heart of my grandfather's lab. Not wanting to even think about what could happen if the time window was malfunctioning or worse, I opened the door and peered inside. My heart sank a bit as I finally identified the sound I was hearing, as well as its source. Sitting on her shins in the center of the time window, holding herself up with one arm braced against the invisible barrier that confined her to my grandfather's invention, Michelle was weeping miserably. Choked sobs escaped her lips as tears cascaded down her cheeks. She pounded futilely at the barrier, which was just within the parameter of the plexiglass shield that cut the time window off from the rest of the world. I couldn't bear to see her like that. I paused to clear my throat before calling to her. Michelle? Starting at the sound of my voice, Michelle looked up and turned her eyes towards me. Kenji? Without another word, Michelle hurriedly wiped her face, even as she straightened herself up into a proper seated position. Sorry, I wasn't expecting any. I was just... As Michelle trailed off, clearly unable to think how to explain away her tears, I sighed sympathetically, looking sadly at the time window's prisoner. You don't have to say anything, Michelle. I understand. And if you really feel like crying, then go ahead. No one would blame you for it. Tears won't help me out of this, and if they don't help, then... Once again, Michelle trailed off with a dismissive shrug. As for me, I came up to the time window and sat on the floor so that I was leaning against the plexiglass shield. Look, I know it must look bad right now, but you're still here. You're alive, and I'm sure that Tensei, Rose, and Kyo, they're going to find a way to help you. You wouldn't be so sure of that if you had spent this week where I am. Look, I'm sure that Rose and Kyo will do whatever they can, but neither of them can understand the time window and its tech as well as Gramps and me. And I get the feeling that he's already written me off. What? No, he wouldn't do something like that. Michelle sighed deeply and leaned against the barrier with her shoulder. Kenji, I appreciate that you want to defend your family, but don't forget how this little contact you've had with Gramps over the years. Even after you've learned about the time window and everything, he only spent, an hour with you? 2 at best? Besides, you weren't here while he and the others were remodeling the place. While they were studying me and how I wound up. Wherever it is my actual body is now. Michelle shuddered slightly. He was so angry the entire time. Of course he kept it under wraps, but every time he looked my way or talked to me, it was like he was talking to a criminal. Or worse, like I was just another part of the time window. Just a thing, no better than a circuit or a bolt. And I'm starting to wonder if he isn't right to feel that way. I mean, look at me. I'm barely even here anymore. I can't get out of the time window. I can't touch anybody or feel anything or any of that. Kenji, be honest with me. When you look at me, do you see a person? An actual human being? And it's giving me the option of, yes, I do, or no, not really. And I want to comfort Michelle. You know, she's already feeling down about this whole situation, being trapped inside the time window. So, yes, I want to make her feel better. I want her to feel positive about herself. So, yes, I do see a human being there. It was a tricky question to answer just because I knew a simple answer would do nothing to bring Michelle any comfort or satisfaction. But as I studied her sad expression, I managed a reassuring smile. I don't think anything other than an actual person would be crying, or would even have to ask something like that. Michelle blinked in surprise at this and gave a tiny smile. Thanks, Kenji. I appreciate that. Look, I don't think that Grandpa would ever really give up on you. But even if you're right about him, Rose and Kyo won't give up. And I won't either. We just need to figure this out. Find some way to get you back. I mean, we were able to change time once, weren't we? Yeah, and we all know how that turned out for me. No, I shouldn't have, Kenji. I didn't. That's all right, I understand, but you're different. You're still alive. So we wouldn't have to go back in time in order to help you. We just need to figure out some way of dealing with this that won't blow up in our faces. I guess there's no harm in at least trying. At this, Michelle turned directly towards me with a small yet hopeful smile on her face. She placed her hand to the invisible barrier, sparks erupting at her touch. But if she felt any pain at this, then it was not reflected in her eyes. All I could see was gratitude. Thanks, Kenji. No problem. Look, if you want, I could stay here for a little while longer, you know, if you wanted some company. Thanks, but take it from someone who's pulled plenty of all-nighters in her time. This floor makes for a lousy bed. Kenji, you really should go to bed now. I get the feeling that we're in for a rough ride from here on in. Yeah, I think you're right. Anyway, good night, Michelle. Night, Kenji. With that, I left the time window lamp behind and made my way back to my room. But as I went inside and lay back down, I couldn't help but hear Michelle's tears again in the back of my mind. The morning came far too soon, and it arrived after a long night of drifting off to sleep, only to wake up a half an hour or so later. Bleary-eyed and frustrated at the sight of the clock reminding me just how much sleep I had not gotten, all I wanted to do was chuck the thing into the time window to let a T-Rex put it out of its misery. I straightened myself up before heading out in search of breakfast. When I arrived in the cafeteria, I realized that I wasn't alone. Rose was already there, nursing what my nose told me was a cup of coffee and nibbling on a heated blueberry muffin with butter. Judging by the state of her hair and bleary eyes, I was not the only one to have had a rough night. Oh, good morning, Rose. Rose jumped up at the sound of my voice, nearly spilling some of her tea as she looked over me. Oh, Kenji, you startled me. So I see. Sorry about that. Had a rough night too? Yes, barely got any sleep at all. At least I had a decent dinner, so thanks again for that. You're welcome, but Kyo's the one who picked out the dinner for you, so... Any chance there's some coffee around? I'm afraid not, but I still have some more tea available. And if you'd like, I could get another muffin for you. I wasn't entirely sure about the tea, but I did know that I needed something to wake me up in a big hurry if I was going to face the day. So I just nodded, remembering at least Rose's muffins were good. Okay, then. Without another word, Rose went off into the kitchen area. I sat down and waited as I listened to her puttering about and firing up the microwave. Before long, Rose emerged from the kitchen area with a sliced blueberry muffin, as well as a steaming cup of tea. I hope you like the tea, and we have cream and sugar available as well if you'd like. Better be ready with the cream and sugar. Knowing better than to actually say this, I instead nodded and accepted the cup and muffin. Thanks. You're welcome. Hey, morning, you two. Both Rose and I were surprised to see Tessa march into the cafeteria and give us both a look, right before she made a face. Ugh, you two look like refugees from a second-rate zombie flick. Didn't you get any sleep? Not as much as we have liked, in fact. Wait a second. Muffins? Tea and muffins? That's all you having for breakfast? And what's wrong with muffins and tea? Nothing as a side dish. Seriously, you're gonna need way more than those mingy little muffins to get you fired up. Haven't you heard that breakfast is the most important meal of the day? I mean, who hasn't? I am aware of that. However, I'd already had a very long and unpleasant day yesterday, and I didn't feel like spending it in a lot of time cooking, so... Well, in that case, I'll whip up something for all of us. I have to admit, I had not been expecting that offer, and it looked like Rose hadn't either. Hey, does this look like a body that subsists on fast food grease burgers to you? What does that mean, subsist? SUBSISTS. Yeah, something like that. But anyway, as we contemplate the meaning of that word, what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and call it an episode. And when we come back to the arcade, Tess is going to whip up a meal for us. So with that being said, if you guys like that video, make sure you slam the like button like a champ. And if you want to see more of Time Tenshi 2 with your old pal, the Wrestlegamer, you know what you got to do. You got to hit that subscribe button down below. So with that being said, I am your friendly neighborhood Wrestlegamer, and I'll see you at the next Warp Zone. Bye, guys.